So it was not too long ago a couple friends of mine and I were hanging out. And yes, I do have those, thanks for asking. And whilst doing so, we were looking for something to watch. We scrolled through channel after channel, browsing the unconstitutional number of streaming platforms plastered onto the Roku homepage, looking for something, anything to kill the next 2 hours, when my friend happened upon an idea. Not too long ago, he had seen this movie called Abigail, directed by Tyler Gillette and Matt Bettinelli-Alpin, and decided to recommend it to the rest of us. So we asked him to tell us about it, since no one was really familiar with the film outside of maybe seeing a poster for it in front of an AMC. And instead of giving us a synopsis and breakdown of what we were in for, he instead asked us to go in blind and trust him, as he assured us it was better that way. So alright, we took him up on this offer, and what we watched for the next 2 hours could have been anything from a rom-com to a horror movie to an action comedy. And after seeing the film, I've gotta say, this is the best way to experience it. Because not having any idea of what we were going into left a wide world of possibilities, and allowed the film to subvert all of our expectations, and each and every twist and turn revealed itself. And because my brain clearly doesn't work any different from anyone else's, this naturally made me ponder the role that advertisement plays in the reception of a film. More often than not, when we dedicate our time to a given piece of media, the first question we ask is, what is it about?
Fiddle diddle diddle, answer my riddle.
We want to have an idea of what we can expect going in, to better gauge whether or not this might be something we're interested in the first place. But is it possible this is doing us a disservice, or even worse, putting a bias between us and the movie in question? Could these expectations we have even sway our opinion of the final product? So that's what I want to explore today. What are the benefits to going into a film completely blind? And when is it okay for the marketing of a movie to mislead you as to what it's about? And finally, when does this deception venture too far away from genuine salesmanship into the realm of false advertisement? So let's discuss. So before we get started, I want to give a quick disclaimer. I'm going to be spoiling a twist to a fair number of films in this discussion, which you may find humorous considering I gathered you here today to discuss the importance of secrecy in a film's advertisement campaign. The irony is not lost on me. However, I do advise you check out these movies before continuing on with the video, unless you really don't care, in which case stick around because you might learn a thing or two. So these are the movies and or TV shows that you should watch out for spoilers going forward.
Everybody got that?
So the best place to start is to describe to you what the film Abigail actually is about. A luxury I, myself, and my friends didn't have. Though how much of a luxury that actually is at this point open to discussion. On the surface, Abigail presents itself as a hostage thriller, similar to Buried, Phone Booth, or Die Hard if you stretch it far enough. We follow a crew of misfits and outlaws, and not like the fun swashbuckling Guardians of the Galaxy type. I mean some real pieces of work. We've got enforcers, con men, ex-military, cybersecurity hackers, and a goofy driver for safe measure. They are tasked with retrieving a package, but not just any sort of package, but that of the kind that are about 4 feet tall and do ballet. That's right, these criminals are conscripted to kidnap and hold hostage the young daughter of a wealthy business tyrant. This little girl being the titular Abigail. And within the first 10 minutes of the film, that's exactly what they do. They break into her home, sneak past her guard, and manage to incapacitate and extract this little heiress right from under her father's nose. But that was only the setup. After their mission goes off, more or less without a hitch, and we get a sense for what everyone in the group's skills are, we are introduced to Giancarlo Esposito's character, Lambert. And Lambert is, much like all characters Hollywood allows Giancarlo Esposito to play, a cold, ruthless, calculating businessman with ties to the criminal underworld.
I will kill your infant daughter.
They gather at this creepy manor in the middle of nowhere where Lambert informs them now the real work can begin. With the girl safely in their custody, they're tasked with bunkering down and waiting for further instructions from him as he negotiates the hostage arrangement. Sounds simple? Well, that's kind of the idea. The goal is keep them here, have them babysit Abigail, and make sure no one gets in and out of this manor without their express permission. And it is at this point I assumed I knew what the film was going to be about. A slow burn thriller seeing tensions rise between the crew, as this operation turns ever more into a match straight out of Rainbow Six Siege, with them on the side of the terrorists, and maybe the protagonist will develop some kind of sympathy for the hostage and in the end let her go. What I was not expecting was this film to turn out to be a slasher creature feature, where not only is this little girl completely capable of protecting herself and turning the crew against each other, but she's also a vampire.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
And this is what I mean when I say I knew nothing going in and it made the story all the better. Because had I looked at any of the trailers for this movie, I would have known that Abigail isn't just a sweet little girl who's in a horrible situation, but is in fact a monster trying to kill each and one of her terrorizers. Some little aspects are kept hidden, like the fact that this is an ongoing tradition that she carries out with crew after crew, but that initial shock that we're not just in an action thriller, but also a creature feature is completely lost had you known what you were going into. And it is why in this particular instance, I gotta say, not knowing what I was about to see definitely improved my movie-going experience. It was refreshing and exciting to see all the twists and turns that could unfold. And looking back on the film, it really does feel like that this was supposed to be a big moment, because nowhere before do you see anything supernatural occur. Everyone uses real-world, modern-day technology. There's no demons or ghosts or anything that make you believe that this is a supernatural setting. So when the reveal occurs that Abigail is a blood-sucking creature of the night, the characters have to discard all of their notions of what they believe is and is not real. They begin listing off everything they've heard about vampires in pop culture and media, trying anything they think might work, learning in the most brutal of fashion that not all the stories about vampires are true. But this leads to moments of satisfaction when we find out they actually are vulnerable to sunlight or a stake to the heart. And they do indeed need blood to survive, though I think they figured that out in the first 5 seconds. So all evidence points to that these reveals are supposed to happen naturally as the film continued on, which is why it baffles me that the first minute 40 seconds of the trailer shows Abigail in her full monster form. It's very rare that I get to engage with a film where I'm watching it and I have no idea what could happen next. For all I know, it's going to turn out that this isn't even just a little haunted mansion, but is in fact like a Resident Evil game with labs and secret doors and a whole bunch of grotesque experiments in a sinister sub-basement. Really, the sky's the limit. Of course, the fact that they could only get Giancarlo Esposito for a few scenes did kind of show the budget's hand, but for the most part, the film maintained my confidence that anything was on the table. So that's Abigail, and knowing what I know now about how context can change the experience of watching a film, I wanted to observe the effects that a deceptive, carefully worded synopsis might have on someone watching a movie they had never even heard of before. And a few days later, that's exactly what I did. And what was this movie, you might ask?
Check this out.
I'm thinking I'm back.
Now this friend is a very big horror movie fan, so films like Talk to Me, Evil Dead, Paranormal Activity, all of them really resonate with her. So in my infinite wisdom, I decided to market the film John Wick as a horror movie to her. I described it as a story following a group of criminals who, after committing a heinous crime to what seemed like an ordinary man, are now doomed to be ruthlessly pursued by an unstoppable entity simply referred to as Baba Yaga, or the Boogeyman. And if you're going off the genres of these films alone, then this might sound a little misleading. But if you are aware of the film, then technically you'll know that I'm not really lying about what it's about. Sure, the film follows a retired hitman who, after losing his wife, is gifted the cutest dog in the world, only for that last bit of hope to be ruthlessly torn away from him by some Russian thugs coming to invade his home and steal his car, which he takes as the last straw and decides to get back in the game to show these vagrants in the most ruthless of ways just how bad they've messed up. And can we just take a moment to appreciate how brilliant of a setup this is? Because how many times have we seen a hitman in a movie with like a dead wife or some dead parents or, I don't know, a dead neighbor? But no, this film goes for the throat and kills the dog.
Kill that from me!
I mean, who does that?
I'm sorry?
Turns out someone was looking to make a hit action movie franchise. Because if you're not on board with seeing each of these assholes get their skull ventilated, then wait till you adopt a furry little friend of your own. Then you'll see. Now getting back on track, I did mislead my friend as to what this film was actually about. However, despite my deception, she ended up having a blast with this one. I mean, go figure, it's John Wick, one of the best action films of the 2010s. From the initial home invasion action scene, to the expansive world of hitmen, lavish hotels, and gold coins, or as she referred to them as, pirate booty. The fact that there weren't any paranormal spooky ghosts popping out of corners was not missed, and as the film progressed, she even had fun applying my synopsis to the plot that was unfolding. Yes, the outline I gave was a little misleading, but it wasn't technically false, because whilst describing it, I never mentioned that there were any supernatural elements to the narrative. And yes, I did really play up the boogeyman aspect, leading her to believe that there was going to be some paranormal goings-on. But John Wick is referred to as Baba Yaga, the boogeyman, and let's be honest, this dude's superhuman. I mean, the way he executes a room full of henchmen is nothing short of an Avengers-level threat.
That is an Avengers level threat.
So though my words were deceptive, it did end up making the film even more of an interesting ride for her. And because of the kind of film I sold it to her as, she got to enjoy it in a way that no one else I know has ever been able to, thus providing clear evidence that the way the film is marketed can have a legit effect on the audience. Moreover, it can attract a group of people who would have otherwise not want to see it because, while she'll watch the occasional action movie here and there, that's not really her speed. As I said, she likes horror movies, psychological thrillers. So had I not described this to her in a way that appealed to her sensibilities, she might otherwise not want to see it, and missed out on a hell of an hour 40-minute roller coaster. And I want to get out in front of this early? No, I don't think you should deceive people on a regular basis, especially not when it comes to important things, like grand finances or impactful life decisions. But something as low stakes as what to watch this evening, or what kind of entertainment to put on, especially when the worst case scenario is you have a boring night in. These are fine and can actually yield some pretty unique results. But this is all personal, one-to-one interactions. But how can movie marketing teams themselves actually take advantage of this? After all, when it comes to me and my friends, we can goof off all we want. I can describe Deadpool as a romantic tragedy where after a man finds out he's diagnosed with terminal cancer, runs off to commit a huge mistake, only to return and find that the girl he left has moved on, and now he has to try to win her back with what time he has left. Or maybe I'll just get really out there with a film like The Matrix saying it's about computer porn and how it risks plunging us into a world of darkness controlled by tentacle monsters.
Nice.
Again, these are my friends, we can say whatever we want. But how does a team of marketing professionals utilize these deceptive tactics to rope in an audience who otherwise might not have seen the flick? Well, for starters, we first need to determine what would be considered too far.
Randall!
After all, unlike the conversations with my friends, these companies are liable to allegations of false advertisement. So we do need to know what would be considered crossing a line. A recent example involves the film Yesterday. In 2022, two men filed a lawsuit against Universal, claiming that they had committed false advertisement due to the trailer of the film leading them to believe that it would feature actress Ana de Armas. However, for one reason or another, she ended up being cut out of the final product. This resulted in a lengthy battle, where it initially seemed like the courts were going to rule in favor of the two men, suing the company, finding that movie trailers are not immune to false advertisement claims. This eventually took a turn for the worse when various holdups and setbacks led to the pair choosing to settle the matter out of court. It appears the settlement included no financial gain for the plaintiffs. However, they also did not have to pay Universal's attorney fees. Which I suppose is a win, considering the fact that it's reported that Universal spent $672,000 in legal fees, 472 of which they wanted to be reimbursed for. Keep in mind, this is all over a $3.99 rental. So totally worth it. I mean, you can't be taking any chances in this economy. So you can imagine that studios don't want to rock the boat when so much money is on the line. And I'm not trying to discourage folks from trying to take on big companies like this. I'm just saying be wary because they will fight back. But they don't want to if they can avoid it. Which is why they need to make sure that when they are selling you a product, they are explicitly clear as to what that product is. And films, like it or not, are considered a product. So when selling a movie, you definitely need to make sure you're clear as to who's in it. Or at least don't say someone is in the movie only to pull a bait and switch and for them to turn out to have not been in the production at all. So I feel like that's our legal basis covered. But this isn't just about not getting sued. We also need to make sure our audience isn't completely disappointed by what the film actually turns out to be. So if you're making something small scale and just following a handful of characters, you really shouldn't advertise it as a grand epic. Additionally, you probably should make sure that everyone's role in the trailer is about comparable to what it is in the film. So like if Bryan Cranston's in your movie, like in the case of 2014's Godzilla, it's best not to position him as the leading man of your film, as when you watch that movie, you're going to be disappointed when come the halfway point, his character dies unceremoniously when a bridge collapses.
Hey yo, what the f?
And now we gotta spend the rest of the runtime following his son, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who quite frankly is just not as interesting. Also, thanks to the Avengers movie that came out the next year, it looks like he's boning his sister.
This is disgusting.
Additionally, it's also best to make sure that you explain what the genre of the film is that you're trying to pitch. Sure, you can leave some twists and turns out, like in the case of Abigail. If they didn't reveal that there was a vampire in the movie, I would still think that the same crowd would be interested in checking it out, just on the sheer fact of, well, I mean, this is kind of a thriller, and it does look pretty creepy. Play up the scare factor so that way people know that's going to be a horror movie. Keep the monster of the film hidden as much as possible. To give you guys a good example, let's loop back to a film we talked about earlier, The Matrix, which, spoilers, isn't about computer porn.
Surprise, asshole.
Mostly. In that film, a large portion of the marketing campaign is centered around what is the Matrix? The mystery of this elusive program. Is it a thing they need to retrieve? Is it something bigger? This question permeates the entirety of the marketing, having characters ask what is real, what is reality, all these notions about philosophy and the idea of self. But never is it explicitly stated what the Matrix is in the context of the trailers. In fact, one of the lines used specifically states,
No one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
which is just fantastic salesmanship, letting audiences know that those burning questions the trailers made them ask can only be answered by going to theaters and seeing the movie for themselves. This became so expansive that they even created a website called www.whatisthematrix.com. They were really pushing the mystery of this elusive program. Nowhere in the marketing is it revealed that not only is the Matrix bigger than any one individual person, but is in fact a simulated reality that holds what remains of the human race hostage. And because of this tight-lipped marketing campaign, it allows for the moment that the truth of the Matrix is revealed to hit the audience with as much impact as it does the characters, as though they too have just had their entire worldview shattered. And this twist, along with the craftsmanship of the film, would go on to inspire cinema for decades to come, and practically launch Lana and Lily Wachowski into Hollywood royalty. Unfortunately, the issue that I notice is that all too often studios want to go in the exact other direction, revealing all their coolest moments, putting on display those money shots, anything and everything it would take to get butts in seats. Which makes sense. I mean, obviously when you're doing a sales pitch, lead with your best hand. But with storytelling, it's all about the suspense, doling out information bit by bit, enticing the audience, making them want to know more, not giving them everything out the gate and hoping they'll stick around for the rest. An example I can think of off the top of my head is a 2014 film, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This movie released trailer, TV spot, and just about every bit of teaser footage that they could. Hell, we even saw the final shot of the film in the trailer. That's right, those of you looking forward to the Rhino fight, well, you can safely take your business elsewhere. And Sony does this time after time. You guys remember the trailer to Madam Web? You know, the one that really hyped up the 3 Spider-Women fighting the main bad guy? Only for it to turn out that was just a dream sequence that Ezekiel was having every night. And none of these featured Spider-Women ever gained their powers or wear their costume in the context of the film. I guess unless you count the very last shot. And this is just reused footage from the premonition scene we saw earlier, which, hooray, really made the other hour 55 minutes worth it. Or how can we forget the iconic exchange between Michael Keaton's The Vulture and Morbius?
What's up, Doc?
Yeah, can't wait to see where that goes. And don't get me started on that Craven movie nobody saw. Oh my god, can you imagine that Rhino fight had once again been the end of the movie? Too bad it still ended up being the second time they mishandled this character. But hey, one more and he gets a free snow cone, right? Unfortunately, this isn't just a Sony exclusive problem. Plenty of other studios are falling in line with this practice. Case in point, Warner Brothers with Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. A film that a lot of people were looking forward to as being the first time that Batman and Superman were going to meet up in live action, with the hopes that they were going to clash like titans on screen. Personally, I don't think this film succeeded in what it set out to do, but that's neither here nor there.
Save Martha!
My mommy's name is Martha, too.
These trailers showed us everything, from the inciting incident to the inevitable clash. Everything you'd think would be in a trailer like this was there. But then they had to go and spoil the surprise that at one point or another, Doomsday was going to show up, resulting in our heroes having to put aside their differences and team up to stop this gray monstrosity from the stars, alongside Themyscirian warrior princess Wonder Woman, who just so happens to show up. And if you know anything about comics, you could probably surmise that Batman and Superman would eventually team up. But this trailer confirmed that that was what's going to happen and pretty much laid out the entire plot in question. But even if we venture outside the world of superheroes, we're going to find that many other trailers have the same kind of problem. A particularly egregious example is the Tom Hanks film Castaway, which saw Hanks' character be stuck on an island with nothing but a volleyball for him to talk to. And the entire film was built on the question, how is this guy going to survive out here all alone? It's the central crux of the narrative. Or it would be had the trailers not spoiled it halfway through.
You were lost for 4 years. We had a funeral, coffin.
What was in it?
Oh, and you want to see if he will make it back to his love interest? Well, the trailers got you covered there too. You lose all suspense that this situation might otherwise have had. And though the movie is still good despite knowing the ultimate outcome, why would you want the story you've put so much work into to be salved with anything that could be holding it back? I could list off a number of other examples, but you get the point. There are tons of trailers to big-name movies that divulge the entire synopsis of the feature. Information that should be discovered by the audience. Breadcrumbs intended to be laid out by the director's hand, allowing viewers to gain an idea of the story as it progresses. But with these marketing teams, so much of the story is already revealed that it begs the question, why go see it if you know what's gonna happen? Obviously, films are more than just the plot. You want to see the interactions, the characters, the performances, but there is something lost when you already know the entire layout. So how do we remedy this conundrum? Looking back on what we've discussed earlier, it's clear you can't keep going around lying about what the movie is. With a threat of litigation around every corner, it is in the filmmaker's best interest to make sure that they are honest and upfront about what they are making.
Yes.
Additionally, they need to make sure that people are aware of the film in the first place. After all, once you've reached picture lock and want to move on to distribution, you need people to know when and where they can see your movie. But what is paramount is a communication between creators and marketing agencies. A coordinated effort. Take for instance the movie Deadpool. This movie had a phenomenal marketing campaign. Simply getting Ryan Reynolds and putting him back in the suit and having him go around on misadventures in our world. Meeting up with kids, pulling pranks on celebrities, and even teaching people how to check themselves for testicular cancer.
I'm touching myself tonight.
This got the character in the public zeitgeist and made people aware the movie was coming out Valentine's Day 2016. This coordinated effort between creators and distributors allowed the rated R superhero film to explode at the box office, all while revealing very little about the actual final product. The cast and crew were able to achieve so much with so little in terms of their marketing push, all without resorting to giving away the best parts of the movie, or worse, spoiling the ending. So maybe more films should try to take this into account. Obviously not the same way. I mean, Deadpool is a comedic fourth wall breaking character. The same trick isn't going to work on every single film. But you know, every so often you might want to try something a little exciting. Like during the lead up to the 2024 Gladiator sequel, wouldn't it have been fun to see like Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal's characters duke it out in like a car parking lot with some foam swords? Or like maybe for the movie Trap, we could see Josh Hartnett in like an escape room. And to their credit, I have seen a lot of efforts from stars of these films, working tirelessly to make sure that all spoilers are kept under lock and key. Whether it be formal interviews with restrictions so heavy that they would give the TSA a run for their money, or an unfunny guest appearance on something like The Tonight Show. You know, they do what they can. There is a balancing act to be struck between making audiences aware that this is coming out and also being sure to keep as much information as close to the chest as necessary. Not every film is best to go in cold. If that were the case, then they wouldn't have spoiled the fact that Robert Downey Jr. is going to play Dr. Doom in the next Avengers film. But when that is the case, it is the filmmaker's responsibility to keep a lid on any and all spoilers that may seep out during the press junkets. And this is completely excluding things like paparazzi pictures and secondhand leaks. That's an entirely separate issue. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the filmmakers being able to place themselves in the shoes of their audience, and being aware of how much they know going in before the film even starts rolling. And it's the studio's responsibility to communicate between the creators and marketing departments to make sure that everyone's on the same page, lest you get things like John Connor Terminator being revealed in the final trailer. All in all, the marketing of a film is only one part of the movie-going experience. And at the end of the day, trailers can be deceptive. Sometimes that deception can be good, but it all depends on the quality of the film that it is advertising. If your film is just not up to par with the sales pitch that it was promoted with, then I'm sorry, but all you're gonna get is disappointment. But now I turn it to you guys. What do you think? Are there some movies that are better knowing less going in? Or are you the type who prefers having the mystery revealed to you before starting a film? Believe it or not, plenty of people prefer their entertainment this way. And is there anything right now you're trying to avoid spoilers for? If that is the case, then here's a little trick for those in the theater. When you see a trailer for a movie you're excited for, take that as an opportunity to go for a bathroom break. Trust me, you'll thank me later.